Hey guys, it's Katie, and I'm here today to do my 2017 wrap-up slash recap, and I read 70 books this year. I'm in the middle of my 71st, and I probably won't finish it until the beginning of 2018, but I read 70 books this year, and I did not expect to at all, because when I'm in school, I tend not to be able to read, but somehow I manage to kind of make it work. So the way I'm going to do this kind of is, I think what I'm going to do is just say what books I read this year. Let me rephrase. I think what I'm going to end up doing for this video is just literally listing all of the books I read this year and saying kind of where it fell in terms of like favorite versus kind of like whatever. I might just say what my favorite books were out of the ones I read, because splitting into categories would make this super long. So what I'm going to do is just list them and kind of just say whether or not it was a good book or a series. So I guess we'll get started. So here we go. So the first series I started with this year was the Young Wizard series by Diane Duane. And there are 10 books in the main series. And I read all of them pretty much back to back. I also read some other books from her world. So there were the 3 ordeals: Ronan's Ordeal, Roshan's Ordeal, and Manvish's Ordeal. And I read Uptown Locals and then Interim Errantry. So those were all Diane Duane books and all part of her Young Wizard series. And let me be completely honest, I really enjoyed that series, and I would actually highly recommend it. Some books are better than others, but overall I loved those books, or really enjoyed them. And yeah, so those, what were they, 10 plus 11, 12, 15-ish books. I think there were about 15 of them all total combined and everything. So yes, Young Wizards, good time. I also read, this is going to be a bit of a mess, just forewarn. I also read Name of the Wind and Wise Man's Fear and The Slow Regard of Silent Things, all by Patrick Rothfuss. They're all part of his Kingkiller Chronicle series. The third one is coming out sometime soon. Nobody knows when. But I have to say, they were not my favorite books of the year. I actually got really annoyed with them and kind of bored at times, especially in Name of the Wind. That one was not my favorite. I know a lot of people love that one. Definitely probably one of my least favorite of the year. Wise Man's Fear was better. It still wasn't quite where I wanted it to be, but I enjoyed the second half-ish of Wise Man's Fear so much more than I enjoyed Name of the Wind. And and then The Slow Regard of Silent Things is a book that focuses on a character that you meet in The Name of the Wind and you see more of in Wise Man's Fear. And it just follows kind of like a daily life of what her life is like, which is kind of interesting, but I really got nothing out of the book, and it was okay. It wasn't great. But I mean, you still, I think, need to read it in order to get the full experience of his whole world. So I mean, the world building is phenomenal in that series. It's just the characters don't really do anything for me, and so it's just not my favorite. And then I read The Godfather by Mario Puzo, which I adored. If you guys have ever seen the Godfather trilogy movies, this book follows the first one pretty perfectly. They expand on a few things, but for the most part, it's the same. And I really enjoyed seeing it in its original form, because I think the book was written before the movie came out. But I really enjoyed this. And for those of you who haven't read it or seen the movies, basically it's about the Italian mafia and their life when they come to America, and it's basically just an in-depth look at what mafia culture was like in the post-World War II era, and just how they live, what their culture is like, and basically what their day-to-day life is. Very interesting. It's a series, and I do plan on reading the other books in the series, but this one is the most well-known, and it's the first in the saga. So that was one I read. Then I also read a historical fiction book called Nicholas and Alexandra, and basically by Robert K. Massey. And this is all about Nicholas II of Russia and his relationship with Alexandra and just the Romanov family, basically. So it starts with their courtship early on, and then ultimately their marriage and the birth of all their kids, and it goes all the way through the end of a year or two-ish after their death, or it ends right after their death, basically. But just getting to read this, it gave me a very interesting insight into Russia during this period, especially from the royals' perspective, because in history we get to read about, the October Revolution and everything from the people's points of view. But this was interesting to see from the royals' point of view, and I actually really enjoyed it. It took me a while to get through because it's a little bit chunky, but I really ended up enjoying it in the long run. And let's see, what else did I read? I'm going to talk about those last. Yes, I'm talking about those last. I also read The Tale of Despereaux. The Tale of Despereaux by Kate DiCamillo, and this is a really cute, short, fun read, told in a fairy tale-esque sort of way, and it's really cute, and I really enjoyed it. You can see a full review of it that I did earlier if you'd like to know more about my feelings about this book. Let's see, what else did I read? I read a lot this year, guys. I read And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. This was just a spontaneous, spooky read I decided to throw into the mix in October, and I'm so glad I read that. I also did a full review of this earlier on my channel if you want to know more about this book, but it's a murder mystery. Agatha Christie is the queen of that, and this is one of her most well-known books, so if you're looking for a good, fun mystery with a twist, definitely check her out. I also read Redwall by Brian Jacques, which is a medieval tale told with rats and mice and other creatures, and it deals with an abbey and just lots of fun kind of like historical fantasy kind of things. And I mean, it wasn't my favorite, but I had a lot of fun reading it anyway. I don't know if I'm going to pick up the other books in the series, but I had fun reading this back in whatever it was, September. So yeah, this is another one I read. My piles are falling. And then I read I technically didn't read it this year. I just added it, and it kind of like accidentally said I read it in 2017. So, I mean, technically I'm still reading it because it's still ongoing. But I read this lovely webcomic called OMG Check Please, and they're actually going to be made into physical copies. And I highly, highly, highly recommend for any of you to go and pick them up because they are so cute and so lovely. It follows a young boy named Eric Biddle, everyone calls him Bits, who is from the South, and he goes to school at a place called Samwell, and he ends up joining the men's hockey team. And as the story progresses, we find out that he is gay and that he loves to bake. Like, he starts a baking vlog, and just how every single person he meets falls in love with him because of his cooking and his adorable little self. But ultimately he gets into a relationship with one of the players, and it just explores their relationship and just all the shenanigans of college hockey. And poor Bits has this terrible fear of being checked. Just go read it, guys. I promise you won't regret it. It is the cutest little webcomic. And if you don't want to wait for it to come out, you can find it online, either on omgcheckplease.com or on the omgcheckplease.tumblr.com. And you can, the artist and author has an Instagram and a Twitter, so you can find out more about updates and all kinds of stuff. But definitely go read OMG Check Please because it is so, so cute. Let's see, what else did I read? I also read, this is one of my favorite books of the year, called The Sea of Trolls by Nancy Farmer. And it is a Norse fantasy book. And honestly, I want to live in this book. I mean, this time in history was not the best time to live, but it is just, it's so good. I found out it's a trilogy as of right now, and I hope to get my hands on the second and the third books at some point. I don't know when, but at some point. And I love this, and I did a full review on this as well, and you can hear about my ramblings and my exciting ramblings about this book in that. But honestly, one of my top books of the year, frankly. And then I also finished the Narnia books this summer with my grandma. She got surgery and she's at her house recovering, and when I was younger we started the Narnia books, but we only got through 4 out of the 7, or maybe we started 5 but just didn't finish it. I don't know, but we finished 5, 6, and 7, which are Voyage of the Dawn Treader, The Silver Chair, and The Last Battle. And it was just fun to read these with her and just kind of finish out that project we started when I was a younger kid. And I loved it. And it did not end like I expected it to. I mean, I definitely knew a lot about the series, but I did not expect the ending, and it kind of blew my mind. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't read it, but a thing happens, and it's just wild. Let's see. I also read the Animorphs series. Not the entire thing. I read about half of them because there are, 64 books total. I'm only reading 62 of them because 2 of them are like a create your own adventure thing, and literally everyone has told me do not read them because they are complete and utter trash and just 100% garbage. So just don't read those. So I'm probably going to skip them. But the others I read from like the main series, books 1 through 25. I am not giving you all the titles because this video will be longer than it is. But then I also read the Andalite Chronicles, Megamorphs 1 and 2, and the Hork-Bajir Chronicles. So when I pick them back up again in January, probably, I will start with number 26. Let's see. Done. Okay. I also read Origin by Dan Brown, which is the latest in his Robert Langdon series, and that was really fun to read, especially now that I have a little bit more of an understanding of art history and certain religion things, and now that I've been through law school and graduated college and everything, I had a totally different experience reading his books in a good way. And while Origin wasn't my favorite, it was still very interesting and very thought-provoking and just had a lot to it. So I enjoyed that, and you can see my full review of it. I'll probably just post all of my reviews that I did down below just to make life easier for everybody. But yes, Origin was good. Let's see. Okay. Did that. Okay, now we're getting into the really good ones. I saved the good one, really, really good ones for last. So, before I joined BookTube, or shortly after I joined BookTube, or kind of in the middle, I reread Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling, and I had a really great time doing it. I'm not holding all these books up, it's too much. But I reread all of them, and I had a very interesting experience this time. Like, I hadn't reread them since my freshman or sophomore year of high school, I think. So it's been about 10-ish years, and because this was the 20th year anniversary, I absolutely had to read them again. I wanted to for years, but I finally did it this year, and I'm so glad I did. As I said, I had a really great time rereading them, different experience. I just got to see things from a different perspective now that I'm older, and I loved them just as much as when I was younger. With every reread, I have a different perspective, and that's so neat and so cool for me to just get to experience them over and over again. Now, my favorite books of the year. Yes, absolutely my favorite books of the year. These next two that I am going to be telling you about are my favorite of the entire year. And they are Golden Fool and Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. Oh my god. I literally died. I didn't think I could be more emotionally scarred than I already was, and then I read them, and I just died even more. See, the thing about Robin Hobb's world is it's incredible. I've been immersed in it for, 2.5 years now or so. I started in October of 2015, and we're now almost to 2018. I won't be finished with them until probably the summer of next year. At least that's my goal. Not that I want to finish them, but I have to spread them out, not only because of my emotional state when I read them, but also because of school. If I were to try and read these books during school, I would completely and 100% neglect my all of my schoolwork. I just would not be able to get anything done, and I need to. But so Golden Fool and Fool's Fate were the first books I read at the beginning of my summer break. And they are the second and third books of the Tawny Man trilogy, And I can't tell you much about them because it will spoil so much. But the Tawny Man trilogy follows Fitz and the Fool and all of those guys that we met in the Farseer trilogy. And it's just kind of, there's been a bit of a time gap, and it's just kind of what's happened in the time that we left them before. So we have like the first one just kind of recaps everything and just kind of has a chapter or two dedicated to everything that happened before. But these two are phenomenal. Like, I love Robin Hobb and her work, but they might be some of my favorite books of all time. And it takes a lot to get me to cry during a book. Those two, both of them, they had me sobbing for a long time. Just all of Tawny Man, let's be frank. All of Tawny Man had me crying from basically the beginning. I'm getting emotional thinking about it, honestly. But a lot happens, and I can't tell you really anything, because if you haven't read any of Robin Hobb's books, you will be very, very confused about everything that I will tell you. So maybe down the line, maybe I will do separate videos talking about each trilogy or quartet, just to kind of get my feelings out, because there's a lot of them. And the final book that I have read this year is called Dragon Keeper, also by Robin Hobb, also in the realm of the Eldowings. And I only finished that a little while ago. It's the first book I read on my winter break. And once again, I can't really tell you much about it. It just deals with the dragons, obviously, and several other characters that we encountered in the world prior to that. Yeah, but that's pretty much what I've got. Oh, and right now I'm in the middle of reading Dragon Haven, which is the second one in that quartet, also in the world. And we'll see if I can finish it. But yeah, that's all I've got. And if I don't talk to you, have a very happy new year, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.